Renee Hagan is program director at one of Ohio's most successful program-intensive facilities, the Lighthouse at Paint Creek.
It is a relatively rare alternative to DYS correctional facilities and a place where Ryan Casey's parents were able to get their son placement.
Just like Department of Youth Services, we too have had an increase in the number of kids who have gun specification charges. Now, that creates some complications in a couple ways. One is our program is designed to be roughly around a 12-month program. Kids who have gun specification charges might have 2, 3, 4, or even 5 years sometimes commitments to the Ohio Department of Youth Services. They might complete the program a year into their mandatory sentence and they can't leave yet. So they've actually completed treatment. They've done all the things that they're required to do. They've met their goals. They've demonstrated that they can practice some of those skills at their highest level of our program, but yet they really can't move on until that mandatory sentencing is completed. Judges have no discretion at that point as well. So kids can end up being kind of stagnant, and when they're ready to move on, they need to be able to move on because they can have some setbacks because it gets frustrating. You know, I've done the work, I've done the things I'm supposed to do, I've met my goals, I've learned about how my actions are impacting other people, I've met my competencies, I'm ready to take that next step, but yet they can't. I don't particularly think that mandated sentencing is a good thing. I would actually prefer that judges have discretion regardless of what the crime is so that they can kind of assess each individual youth for what their needs are. When you talk to them, they have goals, they have ambitions, and they have things that they want to accomplish, and we just have to help them figure out how to go about getting there. And gun specifications can really be hindering in that.
Some people are motivated to change quicker than others. Mine's a mandatory year gun specification. I've changed my thinking, and I know I'm not going to get out and get in trouble again. I still got 4.5 months on my sentence, though. I just see stuff like that as real unfair to people.
Even when they do very well in DYS, they tend to finish school, finish programming, complete all their services, reach their levels, I would say between 1 and 2 years. So when they finish their programming and they've been rehabilitated and they finished all their services, they may still have 2 or 3 years left to serve on their sentence. Financially, that's not a good system. The state is paying over $200 a day to house a child in the Department of Youth Services.
There are some community-based interventions that absolutely do work, that are not only effective in helping young people become the kind of person we all want them to be, but also very, very cost beneficial. With Lighthouse, for example, we are now using multidimensional treatment foster care, a form of foster care that actually replaces the need for an institution.
I am brilliant.
Brilliant.
Focused. Highly motivated. Highly functional. I love myself. And I forgive myself. For what I have done. And I am committed. To improve my life. Do phenomenal things.
Okay, Turner.
I think that we can take steps as a juvenile justice system to make sure that we monitor kids, make sure they're getting the services that they need, so that they don't pose a danger to the community. And it's a tough question. It really is. But I think a child is much more easily rehabilitated outside than he is on the inside.
And now he's in the institution for a 1 to 3 year mandatory minimum with no ability to be released. So what we know from research and what it suggests is that kid, we're actually going to make him worse. The friends that he used to have aren't going to come back and say, oh, God, thank God you're back home. He's been in the institution for 3 years. He's met a lot of kids he never would have met in the past. He's learned a lot of things that he probably never would have seen in the past. And now you've got a low-risk kid. Well, not a low-risk anymore. You had a low-risk kid. Now you got a high-risk kid or a moderate-risk kid coming back to the community. Very few resources, very few connections back to that community, and really through a system that is overriding any likelihood of risk, any discretion of a judge, but really just says we want to be tough on gun crimes. Not to say that you don't punish folks with gun crimes, especially those folks who are willing to shoot people, willing to pull them out on police officers and those things. But the reality is there is a subset of kids who get caught up under the gun specifications, where the risk assessment really provides a very strong backdrop to making some better decisions around how to work with those kids or how to engage those kids into the system than just automatically mandating them to the department for 1 to 3 years.
The Caseys recognize Ryan needs treatment. They want him in a facility close to home, appropriately safe, and focused on education and programming for his successful reentry.
I thought, this is your courtroom, why can't you do something? And she gave him the 2 years. And I thought maybe she would send him to Hillcrest, but she said DYS. And that's when my heart broke, because I knew he would have to fight every day to survive. And no child should have to do that. No child.
That was our worst fear.
And that was our worst fear. And every night when I go to bed, I pray for those 2,000 other children that are stuck in these other facilities. I pray for them every night, that they change, because the way it is now is just not right. They're human beings and they're children, and it seems like nobody cares.
I had an assignment that I had to ask my parents, what do I need to do to get my trust back with them? So I plan to regain a relationship and trust back with my parents. Because I lost all my trust for real from my parents. How I deal with that is look at somebody else's point of view instead of my point of view all the time. Because my point of view got me here.
It is difficult to juggle those two ideas of being aggressive but trying to go home. When I get out, I'm going to take as much advantage of my support system I can. My amazing mother, my mother is my heart. That woman is my hero.
I've been in education for 20 years, and every child is worth something. And when they put them in DYS, they take away their identity. They just become faceless. And the only reason why my son didn't become faceless is because I was determined to put a face on it and keep a face on it.
The thing that makes juvenile justice and the thing that makes criminal justice great when it works well is that there is discretion involved in it.
I think the bigger thing that the public has to keep in mind is that these are kids. They're not hardened adults, they're kids.
We need to really balance this issue of rehabilitation versus public safety, realizing that unless we are focusing on rehabilitation and improving the conditions these kids are in, we're not making communities more safe. We're actually building a better adult prison population.
Ohio is making progress in reducing its juvenile corrections population and getting better results in local communities for a majority of these kids who are of low and moderate risk. But some laws continue to hamper the ability to individualize legal decisions that can produce good results for juveniles. Altogether, Ohio is perfectly positioned to respond to the voices of juvenile justice professionals, youth, and communities that are calling for change so that ultimately we are using Ohio's resources in a way that keeps communities safe and invests most wisely in our children.